right, welcome back in. Just another football show.
Another one.
Division round previews.
Yes.
Another great game. Like all the games this weekend are
We have
fantastic.
been super lucky with the quality of football that we saw on the wild card weekend.
Even the
I'm
games last week,
partially
yeah.
worried that we're going to get some blowouts this weekend and some terrible games coming up, but so far so good.
I just hope my team's on the right end of it this
Right.
weekend.
You know what? We always
I'm
hope for a
worried.
good game.
Ryan doesn't have a dog in the fight. Not one of his three teams made the postseason.
Nope.
I'm really worried over here.
All I'm
about this
rooting
one.
for is chaos.
We're talking Texans. We're talking
Chaos.
Chiefs on this particular video.
Classic Cowboys and Indians.
You clicked on it. You know who we're talking about. We're going to talk to Michael, our Texans fan. We talked to him last week. He was in.
I'm sure he's glad to be
He's
back.
happy to be back after that comeback in the wild card round.
16-0 at one point.
Yeah. Talking to Frenchie, he's our Chiefs fan, and man, I'll have thoughts on Friday. That's all I can really say at this point. We're gonna reconvene. We're gonna
You
give
and me
our
both.
thoughts on Friday. I tried to sort of stay out of this one.
We did a good job of checking our bias at
We're
the door,
trying.
I think.
We're
Yeah.
trying.
We were
to do it.
very
afraid
professional
to have
broadcast
our bias,
journalists through this.
So we're gonna talk that game, get some predictions from both of them about how they think this game's gonna shake out.
Shake it out.
Shaking it out.
Yeah, like a Yahtzee shaker.
It's a good one.
Yahtzee shaker. That's where you go. You go to Yahtzee shaker first.
Yeah, why
You're
not?
like salt shaker.
Margarita,
Margarita.
our drink. I mean, in most
Yeah.
drinks.
I don't know. It's just weird. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna throw it on over to Michael. He's our Texans fan, and get this thing kicked off.
Yeah.
I prefer my drink stirred, not shaken.
All right, so now we're gonna welcome on Michael. He is our Texans fan, if everyone's memories serve, and you listened to all of the stuff we did last weekend. If you didn't,
Should
shame
have.
on
Should
you. Michael, we talked to you last week. Had a hell of a matchup, hell of a comeback out of the Texans last weekend.
Truly insane game.
To sneak in to the divisional round. How you feeling after that win?
I care way more than I should. And Saturday, I think I died 3 times. I had a couple heart attacks, and then, it ended up being okay.
Yeah, you think, and I absolutely agree with, I care too. I didn't have a rooting interest in this game, and I care too much. We, the three of us, Jam Casey and I we watched it with our Bills fan, Matt, at a Bills gather, and
Yeah.
we saw some people going crazy for that, and it ended up being a heartbreaker. So you really,
Yeah, I bet it was.
you really crushed some spirits on
Yeah,
Saturday.
at the end, you're just sort of staring around and going, oh,
Yeah,
man.
I had to leave early.
Yeah.
Like I had to sneak out just because I couldn't be around that much kind of pain. But
Yeah.
Texans earned it in this one though.
Yeah.
They came back. They were down 16-0 right out of halftime basically, and slowly started chipping away. Deshaun Watson played out of his mind. Getting running the ball, extending plays, throwing the ball. So overall, I think that the Texans really proved something to me that they had it in them because I thought they were dead to rights. I think everyone did. Just had them out dead, planning on who the Bills are going to play the next week. And the Texans said, hang on there, hold up. And they stormed back. So how do you feel about this Texans team right now? Overcoming all that, everything. You feel good about the future of this team, I guess?
At 13-0 and Hopkins fumbling, I didn't think there was any shot Houston was going to come back to win that game. J.J. Watt got that sack that, projected everything and put it back in, and I still didn't think that sack was a big deal watching the game. Until looking back and watching it now, that sack absolutely was the biggest play of the game, even though they got 3 points right after it. We came down the field and got the touchdown and the 2-point conversion right afterwards. How do I feel now going forward? I feel like I feel good. I feel we're one of the final 8 teams in the NFL left. I feel like we have the most clutch quarterback in the league. I say that because Deshaun doesn't lose when he can win it. He wins a lot of his games that are close, and if it's in the fourth quarter, unless we give the defense time to mess it up again, he will find a way to score that touchdown or get in position for that 3 to take the lead late in games. And as long as this is the first time I've ever said this out loud either. As long as Bill stays out of his way, I think that we have as good a shot as anybody at continuing on our road in the playoffs.
Yeah, Watson was 20 of 25, 247, plus an extra 55 on the ground and a touchdown. Really did show me something because he was struggling before. He was holding on the ball too long, ended up taking 7 sacks, and I would attribute roughly half of them to just him. Like that's crazy because he holds onto the ball so long. But him extending the play is what ended up saving this team in the end. Keeping plays alive where he should have been absolutely dead to rights.
I still can't believe that play. That was just mind-blowing.
Especially
awesome.
in overtime. So and then J.J. Watt, everyone's talking about him all game. Didn't do anything until maybe the fourth quarter, but then showed up big when they needed him to. Most pressures, sacks, everything like that. So I had basically myself written this team off, saying, hey, whatever. But they kind of got me thinking. I know it's a big task ahead with the Chiefs, but it's one that they've done before. They beat the Chiefs earlier in the year. It was a crazy game in its own right. I think, 31-28, something like that?
31-24.
24. So how do you feel about this Chiefs
we were
game
down 10-0 in that game. Yeah, look, that stadium's crazy. I was there in October, and the stadium was so loud when the game started. And even in the third quarter when Houston was doing what they were doing, keeping the Chiefs offense off the field, that place was still loud. I don't know how the players on the field heard any of the play calls. That stadium is crazy. That being said, I think that Houston has the personnel to do what they did in October and win again. Can't turn the ball over 3 times like they did earlier this year. Can't start down 10-0. But I feel like if we're able to run the ball and keep Deshaun with the ball in his hands also making good reads and good decisions, I think we have the best opportunity to beat the Chiefs. I think we have a better opportunity to beat the Chiefs than we did Baltimore anyway. So I'm pretty excited that we're going to Kansas City. I'll actually be in the building too, which is another fun thing.
Oh, you too? I will also be there.
Yeah.
I bought tickets 2 weeks ago. I've been ready for this.
There you go. You are the Chiefs fan, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why he, I think, doesn't have much to say here, right? Doesn't want to say.
No,
encouraging words.
I'm terrified. I'm anybody who listens to this podcast knows I am the pessimistic Chiefs fan. I am terrified of all matchups, and this team's already done it once. So there's so many good players on this offense. I would expect.
And Fuller's back.
Exactly. I would expect Will Fuller to be out there.
That's huge.
That's really big for this team. It really makes all the difference on offense.
It really does. He dropped 3 touchdown passes against Kansas City in October.
That's true.
Which was crazy.
Yeah,
and we still won.
He
fumbled the ball 3 or fumbled 1 through 2 interceptions, and then Fuller dropped 3 touchdown passes, and we still won the game.
He makes this offense entirely different. Goes from being good to great / scary good, especially when you can get the other guys involved as well. Like even the wild card game with the Bills last week, it wasn't even like a huge game for Nuke Hopkins or anything like that. It was 90 yards, but most of that came in the second half. He was just basically getting shut out in the first half.
All of it did. He had 0 catches. Yeah, he had 0 catches in the first half.
Yeah, ends up getting 90 as a 41-yarder in there as well. But Kenny Stills, Darren Felt, Tywan Jones is getting in the action here. So I have a few options there that are good options, and then you add in Will Fuller, a guy who stretches the field, opens up Nuke Hopkins. Casey is over here just kind of blinking wildly because trying to think of how his team can stop it. But the other question is can
got to win a shootout. That's how this game will go.
Is it going to be a shootout? And if so, do we think that the Texans' defense can slow down a prolific Kansas City offense? So what do you think?
Kansas City offense is awesome. I'm not a huge Pat Mahomes fan. I just don't like the fact that he eats ketchup on steak.
Agreed.
But they are so good, and they're so fast. And it doesn't matter who's on the field for Kansas City. Their wide receivers are the fastest in the league. And you have guys like Hardman and Hill, and they're scary. And our secondary is not super healthy. Missing maybe JJ will be back, but maybe he won't, right? Missing their leader, and they're not as fast as Kansas City's wide receivers, and that's scary. If we can get pressure on the inside, stop the run completely, force them to pass only is the only way that we have a shot. But if Kansas City can just sit back there and design plays, and you read the best play designer in the NFL, and that makes it difficult to stop.
Yeah, and they've seemed to be coming on in the run game lately. Maybe that's just recency bias because they had a couple of good weeks, but their ability to
Williams
be
has been
more
great.
balanced, I guess, is kind of what scares me. But like you said, if you can get your defense going, if you get some guys back from injury, if J.J. Watt has another good game, Whitney Merciless, if all these guys kind of have good games, good to great games, I think they absolutely stand a shot. I mean the Chiefs' offense, no offense, Casey, but is not as prolific as they were last year. They're certainly not.
They're not a run game.
There's not 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns from Mahomes or anything like that.
No.
Maybe they don't need it. They've won quite a few games on their own right, but they're not the same unit they were last year for whatever reason. I think offensive line mainly, but I digress. We won't get into that with you. So overall, I think this is going to be a fun matchup. It really adds to the excitement, the fact that Houston came in earlier in the year and
Did we touch on the fact that
damn it.
You're gonna scare the shit out of him. You can't
Jam's
just pop
here.
in like
Yeah, I'm
that.
here. The fact that the Kansas City team is exponentially healthier than they were
Well,
previously when these two teams met.
I mean, what's the difference? Sammy Watkins.
But yeah, Kansas City's way healthier. The quarterback's healthy.
Yeah.
He wasn't super healthy when Houston went into Kansas City. Plus, the defense has added some pieces. The defensive end, Jones, is that his name, wasn't there in October. Plus, Terrell Suggs is a new player. Aaron Matthews finally starting to play better. Kansas City's defense is also playing way better than they were.
They're playing very well.
Back
Yeah, and one
back in October. Yeah,
one
they are.
really funny side note to come out of that game and that loss was the fact that by virtue of that loss, it moved Kansas City up in the waiver order for they were able to pick up Terrell Suggs. So really, the Chiefs should be thanking Houston, right?
Terrell
Jim
Suggs.
talks to Chiefs insiders all week. All right, so you know the drill. I didn't write down any of the scores from last week, so my bad. I'm doing it this week though. So how you see this game playing out? What do you got for score?
I think we have decided that it was going to be a shootout.
I think so.
wouldn't be surprised if there are 4 to 5 touchdowns scored in the first half. I think that the score 34-31 Houston.
Really close game there. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it. I absolutely have no problem seeing that. I think the over-under in this game is 51, so I expect that to go over would be my bet. So, all right, man, if that's the case, I will begrudgingly talk to you next week.
You're professional.
For your sake, I hope not.
Yeah,
but
I'm
for
a
my
professional.
Sake, I hope so.
All right, man, thanks for the time. We'll talk
I'm
to
super
you.
excited about heading down to Kansas City. I hope that thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's a
Thank
fun.
you.
I love. Quick question: you get treated good down there?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
What's that?
I like to hear it. I've heard some horror stories from other fan bases about not getting treated great down there. So I always ask
Now,
other
when I
people
was
that go
there-
down there if it's a good time. It's mostly
when I was
interdivision that have problems.
When I was there in October, it was awesome.
Okay.
We had a good time. I had no problems with any fans.
Good. That's what I like to hear. So, all right, man. Hopefully for your sake, we'll talk to you next week. For mine, we won't talk to you until next year.
That's perfect. Thanks, guys.
All right, man. Thanks for the time.
Bye-bye.
All right, and we're back. Again, Casey's graciously letting me take over. And even though it's his team, I think it's just because he's being that weird, superstitious, doesn't want to talk too much about his own team going in the playoffs. So I get to do it for him. But we've got Frenchie on the line. He's going to talk Kansas City Chiefs playoff run. Frenchie, how you doing tonight?
Well, it's always a good time when this time of year rolls around, get a chance to talk about the NFL playoffs.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And this is a team that's had huge expectations to start the season. Kind of, I don't want to say faltered, but maybe didn't quite live up to what they were last year throughout the course of the season. But from late November through December, really kind of kicked things in gear. I want to almost talk more about what they've been able to do on defense as far as this Chiefs team as opposed to the offense right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you look at the fact this team was a bottom 3 defense last year against the run as well as a scoring defense to move up, they're not an elite defense by any stretch of the imagination, but even being middle of the road without many changes on the defensive side outside of Frank Clark and Tyrann Mathieu, this team has really taken shape under Steve Spagnuolo and become more of a strength than a weakness for this year's squad.
I love watching this team play. I love, and I'm going to use the term here, opportunistic, because that's the way I think this defense really is, especially with Tyrann Mathieu. He's kind of fit into this role as the safety over top, kind of just watching everything play out, reading the quarterback's eyes, able to make opportunities. The front seven of these guys have been really getting a lot of pressure as of late on opposing quarterbacks, and it all kind of goes back to when Patrick Mahomes got hurt against Denver. I mean, they really stepped up after he went out, got tons of sacks in that game. And then since that point on, have really just been this, I don't want to say the strength of this team, but a strength of this team. When Mahomes was out, the defense knew that they had to do their job to make sure that they were winning football games, and it's really kind of carried over.
But I think if you look at the timelines, Mahomes getting hurt and the offense dealing with all the injuries they had on the offensive line was the same time that the defense was finally starting to get healthy. Frank Clark was starting to get over some ailments. Chris Jones missed the first game against Houston this year. They had some injuries in the secondary with Kendall Fuller getting hurt in that Houston game. So they've started to get healthy, and health has just been the biggest issue for this team this year. And, you talked about missed expectations. That's been one of the biggest reasons. For this team to go 12-4 this year and miss the playmakers that they've had, 4 games without Tyreek Hill, 2 games without Patrick Mahomes. In those 2 games, they went 1-1 against 2 NFC playoff teams. It's been the depth and the gumption of this team that has allowed them to be so successful.
Yeah, 259 quarters missed from the team starters. Just an unheard of number. And like you said, the depth of this team, everything, and kind of just a rallying point. It's weird to say that this offense isn't what it was last year, but they don't have to be at this point. This defense is doing its job of keeping them in ball games where they don't necessarily have to be winning shootouts. Casey's shaking his head over there. I'm sure he's got a rebuttal coming up here pretty soon. But as good as his defense is playing, I don't think it's the fact that the offense isn't as good as it was last year. They're just aren't in a situation where Patrick Mahomes has to throw for 300 yards and put up 8 touchdowns a game to win.
Well, that was one of my favorite things. Mitchell Schwartz, the team starting right tackle, he's a multiple-time All-Pro tackle, one of the most underrated players on the offensive line in the National Football League. He was doing a Q&A on Twitter, and someone started talking smack about the offense, and he basically just like, you know what, fine, I'm sorry that we're not a record-breaking offense. We're still top 3 in the NFL. What more do you want? And that's sort of like, yeah, there's a downturn in the offense. They're scoring, I think, 7 points less per game than they were last year. But this offense was setting records last year with the scoring they were put up, and it was because of that defense they had to do so. So, yeah, saying that the defense has been a strength, so the offense doesn't have to put up those type of numbers is right on hitting the nail right on the head. Yeah,
and it allows for a more balanced football team, right? You don't need Patrick Mahomes to throw, like you said, 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, putting up some Jameis Winston-type numbers last year. So, and they kind of really galvanized, like you said, and like Jam said, around the injury. But after the bye week, undefeated, 5 straight wins. They allowed one passer over 250 yards. That was Phillip Rivers in week 17.
And the Chargers seem to kind of have their number a little.
And he threw 258. That's the only guy that threw over 250 the last 5 weeks. They had 7 takeaways in the last 5 weeks. Do
you care to run off the list of quarterbacks that are on that though? I hate to be that guy, but
you are that guy. You're a Chiefs
Derek
fan,
Carr,
Yeah.
Tom Brady, had a bad year.
Tom Brady,
Drew Lock
has been slinging
Mitchell
it.
Trubisky.
You calm down.
And Phillip Rivers again.
Stats is stats.
I love the way this defense is playing.
Mitchell
and they
was
are
coming in
getting
hot.
Much
He was
better.
coming in on a
No,
roll.
he was not.
Don't rain on my parade.
I have no problem. I love the way that
this
this
is your
defense
parade.
is
Don't
playing.
rain on your own parade. 7 takeaways in those 5 weeks. So whatever it was, right? They were week 10. They were a 6-4 team. Could have gone anyway, right? And they end up the season 12-4, just on a hot streak. So I really appreciate what they were able to do. It does seem, I think Frenchie used the word scrappy or gritty or gumption. These are all things that kind of describe Tyrann Mathieu, who has stepped up as the almost the
man.
certainly the face of the defense, almost kind of the embodiment of the team, just to kind of be this scrappy, gritty guy that's undersized, had things against him, whatever, and step up to be top of the top tier. So
should have pulled the audio.
What?
You claiming he's the guy I wanted?
You gush it. Yeah, everyone wanted Tyrann Mathieu. Who didn't want him? Come on. So this team, whatever it was, they came out of the bye week red hot, riding well on offense, riding great on defense. They might be one of the hottest teams in the league right now, just with the games that they've won here. So what, I guess, is the expectation for this team going forward? You're playing a Texans team that beat you. I don't want to say handily, but it was a touchdown game, right, before in the year. And
in your house.
Seemed to, at least that week, win the shootout. So what's the expectation for this game on Sunday?
Well, the expectation is going to be a win. This team is Super Bowl or bust this year. They got to taste the AFC Championship last year. They got to end that home playoff curse. Anything less than at least a Super Bowl appearance is a disappointment this year. But going back to that Texans game, that was when the injuries were kind of at an all-time high for that team. They had Tyreek Hill finally come back from injury, but only played 22 of the 50-plus snaps the offense was on the field. Patrick Mahomes was still dealing with that ankle injury a couple weeks before going out with that dislocated kneecap. They've missed Chris Jones and Anthony Hitchens. So that's two of your big run stoppers right up the middle. It's one of the reasons that guys like Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson were able to gash them for over 180 yards. You also have seen in the last couple of weeks, not just Tyrann Mathieu, but the one that they're going to be sorely missing is Juan Thornhill at the other safety position. He's had a huge rookie year in the second half. Guys like Mike Pennell, Xavier Williams have been stepping up at defensive tackle. And, to have those guys back healthy and activated, they didn't have Pennell on the active roster the last time these two teams played. So a lot is different from these two teams, even if it was just a couple months ago that they first matched up.
Yeah, things are kind of changed for Kansas City, obviously, since these two teams played. But the Texans are getting healthy in their own right. They got
J.J. Watt came
J.J.
back.
Watt, thank you. I was stuck on Will Fuller for some reason. I couldn't think of J.J. Watt.
Because Will Fuller's your guy, and that's why you were stuck
I didn't
on him.
draft him this year, though, in fantasy. I knew he'd just get hurt. It would mess me up.
Yeah.
But Will
Saw
Fuller
that one
expected to return, possibly be back for this game. This Texans team, I don't think they've been this far, right? Because normally they're the Saturday noon game, and they're done, and that's it.
I think their 6 playoff appearances, Texans have gone out on Saturday. So
Yep. So they're here now, obviously coming into a situation where they've already won. They've conquered the beast at Arrowhead, if you will. If this sort of turns into a Kansas City might be down a score, 2 scores early on, do you think that the Chiefs will be able to overcome that?
Oh, absolutely. This is Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce time when you have those guys start to come into play. Everyone talks about Andy Reid's failures in the playoffs, but you got to look across the field too at Bill O'Brien. This past weekend was his first career win, now 1-4 in the playoffs. But the biggest thing is that they didn't really win that game. The Bills lost it. Bills get out to a 16-0 lead and can't hold on and win. Honestly, it should be Buffalo playing in the second round ahead of Houston, but Houston was able to scrap enough magic together from Deshaun Watson to bring that win home. But overall, Bill O'Brien has had a lot of trouble play calling in the postseason. So even if the Chiefs get off to a poor start, I could easily see them pulling what Houston did this past week and making a comeback pretty easily.
Yeah, something I just noticed here as I was looking at it. Last time the Texans played at Kansas City, 0 sacks for the Kansas City. That's insane because he was sacked 7 times last week. I think that could end up being the difference here. You get some better coverage or more unified coverage on the back end. You get him to have to scramble around, hold that ball a little bit. Deshaun Watson is sack prone, and some of those turn into turnovers or takeaways, I guess, which would be very beneficial to a hungry Chiefs team. I like the point you made about this team being Super Bowl or bust. I think a lot of that has to do with the amount of money that's being thrown around in the offseason, the guys that they're bringing in. They know that the window is closing. I don't think that Andy Reid's career is coming to a close anytime soon, but it's damn near time that he gets a Super Bowl win. There's no one in the league I'm rooting for to win a Super Bowl.
And that's what
Andy
I wanted
Reid.
to ask. We talk in length, the football community, about Kirk Cousins' inability to win in primetime and this and that. Andy Reid is one of those guys that the go-to seems to be. He can get you a great regular season record, get you in there, get you close, but can't quite make it over the hump. Is this the Chiefs team that takes Andy Reid over that hump?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that the person that has kept him from reaching the pinnacle 2 different times now, really the closest he's been to a Super Bowl win, he's going to be sitting at home as Bill Belichick, beating the Eagles in 2004 and then last year beating the Chiefs in Arrowhead in a absolute thriller of a game. Those are probably the 2 games that have put Andy Reid the closest to winning a Super Bowl in his entire career. Now, he is probably without a doubt the best coach of any of the guys left. The biggest thing for Andy Reid that's been a problem throughout his entire career and was a problem throughout the regular season this year is he can't take his foot off the gas pedal. You can't start thinking about resting people for next week. You have to keep your foot. I don't care if you're up by 20. You keep going. You make it a 40-point game. There's no such thing as running up the score in the playoffs.
Yes, please.
Especially after what we saw the Texans do last week.
Yeah.
They should have been down 20 at then after that weird drop thing. But yeah, that amazing team. Texans have all the momentum, but I think the Chiefs are don't want to get
just because the Chiefs didn't play last week.
Don't want to get too much into it, but I think that the Chiefs might take advantage of that.
We'll see. All right, so you know how we do it here. We need you to tell us how you think this game's going to shake out. Little game flow, little final score. Who's going to win? What you got?
So you got to go with Andy Reid coming off a bye week. He's been doing his entire career. The Chiefs handle business at home against the Texans. I think you're going to see the 2 teams kind of trade some blows early on. I think the Texans will come out a lot hotter than they did this past week because Deshaun Watson is going to have a fire lit under his ass and want to put some points up. It's the top 2 quarterbacks from the draft class that year.
But Trubisky was taken before them.
He said what he said.
So
it's 2 of the top 3.
It's the top 2 quarterbacks. Even if he was taken, I'll still say Mitchell Trubisky, bitch Trubisky.
Whoa.
Nailed it.
Whoa. My guy, Mitchell Trubisky.
He's right.
Yeah.
Man is literally flaming garbage.
At times. Who isn't? We've all been there.
I don't even blame the Bears for taking Trubisky over Mahomes because he was such a question mark. But how do you take Mitchell Trubisky over Deshaun Watson? 2 guys coming from the same conference.
Well,
Yeah, one's
No one knows.
Yeah.
The answer is no one knows.
You get outfoxed by John Lynch.
yeah. The Niners got him.
Well, anyway, I think you're going to see these 2 teams probably pretty close at halftime, but I think the Chiefs on one of their first possessions of the second half take the lead for good, and I think you're going to see about a 31-17 final score.
All right, I'm actually keeping track. Well, you weren't here last week, but I forgot to keep track. So I'm actually keeping track this week, and
we'll hold you accountable.
in the most sincere I've been in all of these interviews, I really hope that we're talking to you next week.
I agree.
All right, well, let's just say I'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, that works.
All right, perfect. Hey, have a nice night. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Yep, have a good day, guys.
Thanks, man.
Later.
Bye.
All right, that's that game. We're down. We're just doing them. We're churning them out.
We
left
done it.
and right.
We done it.
So a couple notes. If you guys are watching, if you're hearing this, you're watching it on the old YouTube. We've done all of the games for the playoffs. Go find all the games. Listen. Give us some comments, some likes, some subscribes.
It's kind of like listening to a sports time machine.
All of the things. It's kind of a mess for us. But, I mean, if you want to go back and listen to us talk to fans from last week for the wild card round after the games have happened.
See who was right, see who was wrong.
No.
It's a little bit of a
I was
mess.
way wrong.
He said fans, not
in
our
order
episode.
in order to listen to Ryan's predictions, which you can absolutely
No.
do, go back. We've got the podcast feed. I know if you're listening to this, you're listening to it on YouTube. Make sure you're finding us on Facebook, liking us there, following us on the
All
Twitter.
slam dunks this week, I promise.
Following us on the Twitter machine at Another FB Show. We're available all kinds of places, and that you're downloading the podcast. Subscribe, give us a listen. We are doing the thing. Even all off season, we'll be doing things. So, until the next video that you click on, right?
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Hopefully ours.
It should be hopefully ours.
But
I mean,
it depends on how
if you've
YouTube's
listened to the
doing
other
it.
3, and this is your last one, enjoy whatever you're going to listen to.
Enjoy
next.
the cat video.
Autoplay is going to get you to a
But
get you
until
a Babish video.
but
you've already seen.
until the next video that you hear our voices.
Yeah.
This has been Just Another Football Show.
Bye.
See you.
That's one.